quickly climbing.
This means major powers such as China and India are finding other markets for their products. Madeline Rivera has more from Washington.
As the tariff wars escalate, America's trading partners could be adapting more quickly than anticipated.
Suddenly everything's gluten-free, right? Gluten-free products are among the hottest sellers right now, so no wonder farmers in Kansas are panicking. Their biggest crop, it's a gluten-free cereal grain called sorghum, is now under threat. The state is the top U.S. producer of the ancient grain, and in the last 3 years exported $416 million worth of sorghum to China. In fact, the U.S. sends 80% of the cash crop to China, where it's used to make liquor and feed livestock as well.
Several U.S. ships bound for China came back after Beijing.
The global agricultural landscape has been shaken by an unexpected shift that few believed possible and even fewer saw coming. A single decision has sent shockwaves through trade circles, markets, and strategic power corridors, rewriting long-standing assumptions about who controls the future of global food supply. South Africa, long perceived as a stable but secondary agricultural exporter, has suddenly taken center stage by securing a $25 billion sorghum deal with China, an agreement large enough to disrupt the balance of power between nations and redefine global demand dynamics almost instantly. What makes this moment explosive is not just the size of the deal, but the speed at which it dismantled a relationship the United States believed was guaranteed. Overnight, America lost its biggest sorghum market, a critical export route that many assumed China would rely on for decades. Instead, the world's largest consumer pivoted sharply toward Africa, signaling a new era in agricultural alliances and exposing vulnerabilities that Washington has long ignored. The abrupt shift has created an atmosphere of disbelief across the industry. Sorghum, once considered a quiet but dependable export crop for the United States, has become the center of a much larger geopolitical recalibration. China's massive order from South Africa is not only a purchase, it is a strategic declaration that Africa is no longer a backup supplier but an emerging powerhouse capable of reshaping global agricultural flows. This transformation did not happen slowly. It unfolded with the kind of decisiveness that forces governments and markets to reconsider everything they thought they understood about trade priorities. One moment, American exporters were confident in their role as China's primary supplier. The next, the market was gone claimed in full by a competitor that has been rapidly strengthening its agricultural infrastructure, technology, and export capacity. The deal's magnitude immediately raised questions about why China made such a dramatic move. The answer lies in a combination of economics, strategy, and shifting global influence. South Africa has spent years investing in its agricultural modernization, from expanding high-yield sorghum production to improving logistics and export efficiency. Labor costs remain competitive, land availability is expanding, and climate adaptability gives the region a comparative advantage in drought-resistant crops like sorghum. Pair these factors with China's long-term strategy of diversifying away from American supply chains, and the result is a deal large enough to rewrite market expectations. China has sent a clear message. It wants agricultural security that is not dependent on U.S. policy, pricing, or geopolitical tensions. The United States, meanwhile, is left confronting a painful reality. Losing its biggest sorghum market overnight is not simply an economic setback. It is a symbolic blow to its agricultural dominance. For decades, American farmers assumed that their scale, technology, and historical trade ties guaranteed a secure position in global markets. The $25 billion shift to South Africa shows that this assumption no longer holds. Competitors are rising, alliances are shifting, and the global order is reshaping itself in ways that challenge the idea that the U.S. is the world's default supplier of essential commodities. International buyers are increasingly prioritizing price stability, long-term trust, and diversification over legacy relationships, leaving U.S. producers vulnerable to sudden market realignments like this one. This development also raises concerns for broader U.S. agricultural exports. If China can move sorghum purchases to Africa this quickly, what prevents similar shifts in maize, soybeans, wheat, or other staple crops? The answer is unsettling: nothing. Global buyers are no longer tied to American supply in the way they once were. Infrastructure investments across Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia are giving emerging economies the ability to compete at scales that threaten U.S. dominance. South Africa's breakthrough sorghum deal is simply the latest and most visible example of this trend. It serves as a warning that agricultural power is moving southwards and eastwards, away from the traditional centers of influence. China's decision also aligns with its broader goal of strengthening economic partnerships across Africa. By choosing South Africa for such a massive purchase, China enhances its role as a long-term development partner while securing access to reliable agricultural supply. This dual benefit makes the deal more than just a trade agreement. It becomes part of a larger geopolitical strategy that unifies infrastructure investments, trade networks, and agricultural flows into a single coordinated